Welcome back to Firestorm Games, and in this video we'll be cracking open the new Indomitus box once again to bring you another how to quickly paint guide. This time I'll be showing you how to paint your Necrons in the colours of the Mephrit Dynasty and how to get them onto the gaming table in as little time as possible. The first step in painting is to prime, and this is so that later layers of paint can properly adhere to the surface of the model. As you can see, I've chosen to use a black primer for this task, due to the fact that it will act as shading when we start on the next step. After priming, we want to give our Necron its metallic colour, whilst also adding a little bit of shading. The easiest and quickest way to do this is with dry brushing. Dry brushing requires taking a large and a rounded brush like this one here, dipping it into your paint and then wiping the brush onto a piece of paper or a piece of towel. This will remove any excess paint, and it will also help the paint to be worked through the bristles. The paint I'm using for this particular task is the dark steel of Iron Warriors. Now that we have our brush prepped, we can start to apply some downward and quick strokes to the surface of the model. By only applying a light amount of pressure here, you should find that the paint accumulates to the large flat surfaces, but not into the recessed areas. Because of the primer we use, these areas remain black and so appear as shadows, which will help to bring out the level of details without the need for washes. You want to continue this technique across the whole model, which will result in a good starting metallic base colour. Using the same dry brush technique as before, we can next use some of the brighter metallic paint, Stormhost Silver, to help enhance some of the details of the Necron. Focus your application across the shoulders and head and apply a little less pressure than before. You may find it helpful to use a smaller brush for this step as well. Now, this slightly different technique will cause the paint to build up just across the hard edges, helping to bring out those details. Green is a secondary colour of the Mephrit Dynasty, so we want to give the armour a very subtle green tinge. By using some contrast paint, Camo in particular, we can apply a thin layer of this over the whole model. The result is a very slight green that also helps to build up a slightly weathered appearance too. With the base colour of the armour completed, we can start to work on the iconic yellowish orange glow of the Mephrit Dynasty. As I'll be using some contrast paints to build up this colour, we first need to start off with a light tan that we can add the contrast paint on top of. I'm using some Wraithbone for this and layering it over all the areas I wish to have the glow. I thin it down with a little bit of water first just to improve the coverage. Now, the areas you want to tackle here are the inlays of the Gorse Blaster, the pipes, vents, and also the eyes. To create that warm yellow glow, apply a good layer of Iyanden Yellow over all the areas that we base coated in that last step. This contrast paint will stain the flat areas yellow, but flow into the recesses to create a darker orange. Once dried, this brighter colour will really stand out against the darker metallic of the rest of the Necron and create the appearance of an orange glow. To finish off the yellow glow, we can use some small dots and lines of white scar. These small points of pure white will help to enhance the glowing effect even further. Apply these dots to the hard edges of the vents and the eyes, and you can also paint a fine line over the pipe too. With this completed, all that's left to do is to base and varnish the model, which should leave you with something that looks like this. And here we have the finished Necron warrior of the Mephrit Dynasty, which can easily be painted in between 15 and 20 minutes. This time can easily be shaved down further if you were to paint several models simultaneously in a batch. Whilst this guide focused on just a warrior, you could apply the same techniques used here to other Necron units as well. If you enjoyed this guide to getting your miniatures painted and ready for the gaming table in as little time as possible, then please do let us know in the comments below. And if you have any suggestions for future tutorials, then let me know those as well. You can find this kit and all the paints used in this video on the Firestorm Games web store for at least 10% off the RRP. You can find a link to the site in the description below. And so we just want to say a big thank you for watching this video, and we hope to see you again on Firestorm Games.